Have you ever felt an ache at the center of your chest? A whispered longing for something you can't quite name? Maybe you find yourself retreating when someone reaches out, or you catch your reflection and hardly recognize the person staring back like there's a shadow draped over your own light. You're not alone. Somewhere in the quiet corners of our minds, we carry unseen breaks, memories that tug at our confidence, habits born from old wounds, and a voice that insists we aren't enough. What if I told you that those fractures aren't flaws, but invitations to rediscover the self you've been hiding? Imagine closing your eyes and taking a slow breath, feeling the rise and fall like waves whispering reassurance. You lean back in your chair, the world's noise softens, and you realize you've been holding your breath for far too long. This isn't a lecture on theory or a list of steps to tick off. This is a gentle walk through your own heart, a mirror held up in soft light so you can finally see the whole story, the moments that shaped you, the masks you've worn, and the courage it takes just to keep going. You might sense a familiar ache because everyone who's ever loved, lost, or simply lived has walked this line between hurt and hope. And in these next moments together, I want you to know you're not weak, you're just unhealed. We'll explore why the cracks in our spirit aren't something to hide, but the very places where light can seep in. We'll whisper truths about why you might chase what you didn't get as a child, or why you silence your own voice to keep the peace. There's no jargon here, only real words that feel like someone speaking right to you, inviting you to breathe and reflect. If you feel a flicker of recognition, lean in. If your heart tugs at a memory, stay with me. And if this touches you, let's grow together. Hit subscribe and tap the like button, not because you owe me anything, but because you're choosing to honor your own journey. Ready to let the healing begin? You remember the nights you lay awake, heart pounding, replaying every misstep, every word you wish you could rewind, because deep inside you learned early on that mistakes meant rejection. You whisper to yourself, "I should have known better," while your body trembles in the dark. But what if those mistakes weren't proof of your weakness, but the breadcrumbs leading you back to your truth? That trembling isn't shame, it's the signal that your heart is still alive, still hungry for connection. Think about how you've chased approval like a lighthouse in a storm, believing its distant glow would steady you. You've texted first, laughed too loudly, agreed to things that pinched your soul, all to fill a silent hole that no compliment could fully reach. And maybe you blamed yourself when it felt empty again. Yet that chase, that yearning, was simply your heart's way of saying, "I matter. I want to belong." It's not arrogance, it's the spark of self-worth waiting to be kindled. And then there are the times you folded yourself into silence, when speaking up felt like a risk you could never afford. You bite your tongue because peace seemed safer than protest, a quiet you believed was necessary to keep love in the room, but each swallowed word carved a hollow in your spirit. Silence isn't strength, it's the shadow of the voice you've tucked away. Beneath it, your truth still beats, impatient to be heard. Breathe with me now. Inhale. Feel the calm before you exhale. Every breath is a step toward reclaiming the voice you thought you lost. Let it rise, slow and steady, until those unsaid thoughts find their path. When you finally speak, your words won't be tremors of fear, but declarations of your worth. Perhaps you've wrapped your heart in armor, sarcastic jokes, razor-sharp comebacks, walls of "I don't care" that mask the hollowness within. You convinced yourself this shield was protection, but what you built only distanced the warmth you craved. Armor looks strong, but it clinks with loneliness. What if instead you allowed a crack? What if you let someone glimpse the vulnerable pulse beneath? Connection blooms in those fragile spaces, not behind steel. So you stand at a crossroads. One path leads back to the cycles you know, overgiving until you're empty, fleeing when closeness stings, burying the self that aches for more. The other path is uncharted, lit by the soft glow of honesty. It asks you to pause mid-chase and ask, "What do I need?" It invites you to turn toward the silence and speak your truth. It nudges you to peel off the armor and reveal the heartbeat that's been waiting. You might tremble at the thought. That's good. That's growth knocking. Because to heal, you don't need a perfect plan. You need the courage to feel your way forward. And you already have all the pieces: your breath, your voice, your wounds, stripped of blame and named with compassion. Let's lean into that fear together. Picture your next moment of panic not as a sign of failure, but as an invitation to pause and breathe. When you find yourself chasing approval, stop and ask, am I seeking love or survival? When silence tempts you, feel the weight in your throat and softly let the words rise. When your armor clicks shut, notice the loneliness ringing inside and imagine opening just one panel to let warmth in. Healing isn't a destination you reach by force. It's a dance of small steps and tender hesitations. Some days you'll spin forward, other days you'll stumble, but every movement is progress. Trust that this dance is yours, choreographed by the very story you've lived. Hold your chest, feel the pulse, and know. These wounds aren't walls, they're gateways. Beyond each ache lies a part of you that's ready to stand taller, love deeper, and live more fully. You're learning the sacred art of tending your inner garden, pruning the lies, planting seeds of compassion, and letting your true self bloom. If this resonates, let this moment be the first breath of your new journey. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear they're not alone. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more whispers of healing, because together we'll trace each step back to ourselves. You've learned to measure your worth by the echo of someone else's approval, as if your value were a fragile bubble waiting to be poked. But what if your worth is not a mirror held up by others, but the quiet certainty you carry inside? Feel your spine as you read this, because that simple awareness, your own unshakable belonging, has been there all along, hidden beneath layers of doubt. When the world applauded you, you drank it in like water to a parched throat. Yet when the claps stopped, you gasped for air, convinced you would vanish without recognition. In truth, the breath that keeps you alive is the same breath that affirms you beyond any acclaim. Recall the last time you offered a piece of your heart and it was met with indifference. The sting felt like a verdict, unworthy, unlovable. You tucked your heart back into its sleeve, determined not to risk that pain again. But the heart you protect becomes brittle. It longs to unfold, to press into another palm, to trust. Trust isn't blind, it's brave. It knows the stakes and says, I lay my heart here, knowing it could break, because the promise of connection is worth more than the fear of rejection. Take a moment to place your hand over your heart. Feel its warm pulse, steady and persistent. This rhythm is your truth, beating even when words fail. There will be times when your pulse races with anxiety, racing toward shadows of yesterday. Instead of pushing that fear away, let it rise and echo, I am here, I am breathing, I will be okay. Let the pulse be your mantra, guiding you back to center. Sometimes healing feels like walking in a clearing at dawn, the air crisp with possibility and the horizon soft with light. Other times, it's trudging through a fog so thick you can't see your own hand in front of you. In those fog-bound moments, remember that each step forward, however small, is its own triumph. You don't need to sprint to a finish line. You're learning to walk again, reclaiming ground you thought you'd lost forever. There's a memory you carry, perhaps of a childhood birthday when no one showed up, or a time you confessed your feelings only to be met with silence. That memory loops in your mind like a scratch on a vinyl record, replaying the pain. Instead of letting it define you, picture that moment as a chapter in a larger story. You are the author, and you get to write the next lines. In your new draft, you choose to meet that younger version of you with compassion, whispering, I see you. I'm here now. In that act, you amend the narrative, no longer a tale of abandonment, but one of presence and courage. It's in the quiet gestures that your healing truly unfolds. Setting a boundary, and feeling a wave of guilt crash through you, then standing firm anyway. Sending a late-night text to a friend admitting you're struggling, heart pounding in anticipation of their response. Giving yourself permission to cancel plans when you know you need rest, even though a part of you worries you'll disappoint. These acts are the stitches that sew your wounds, strand by tender strand. They feel small, almost insignificant, but they grow into a tapestry of self-respect. You might worry that if you stop chasing approval, you'll lose the people who matter. But approval and belonging aren't the same. Approval is conditional, like standing on shifting sand. Belonging is grounded, like roots that burrow deep and hold you steady. When you choose to belong to yourself, first honoring your needs, feelings, and dreams, you build a foundation that can withstand rejection, criticism, and the ebb and flow of life. Remember the last time you laughed freely, unguarded and full-throated? Hold on to that memory. That laughter is proof that joy still lives within you, even if you've been careful not to let it out lately. Let yourself lean into those moments, watch a favorite show that makes you gasp with laughter, dance like no one's watching, or simply hum along to a melody that stirs your soul. These pockets of joy are not frivolous. They're reminders of the lightness you deserve. Healing asks you to confront uncomfortable truths, that you've been unkind to yourself, that you've accepted less than you deserve, that you've carried burdens not meant for your shoulders. But when you face those truths, you free yourself from their power. Acknowledge them, thank them for the lessons they've taught, and gently lay them down. You are not defined by your past choices. You are shaped by the courage you show today. Let your tears water the seeds of compassion in your heart. Let your doubts sharpen your resolve to keep walking. Let your scars be badges of survival, not symbols of defeat. In every inhale, draw in acceptance. In every exhale, release the shame. You're learning not just to survive, but to thrive, to bloom in spite of and because of the wounds you bear. If this resonates, share it with someone who needs permission to breathe again. And when you're ready, lean into the next breath as a promise. You will continue, you will grow, and you will heal. There's a part of you that still carries the echoes of childhood, the moments when you learned that your big feelings were inconvenient, so you tucked them away like fragile keepsakes in a locked box. You grew up trusting the quiet smiles that followed your good behavior more than the storm of tears that rose when you felt unseen. But those tears weren't weaknesses. They were the language of a heart desperate to be known. Today, you can unlock that box and let the old emotions breathe again, not so they can overwhelm you, but so they can guide you toward the compassion you deserved back then. Picture the younger you, the one who stared through the window as laughter played outside, hoping someone would notice your longing and pull you inside. Now imagine yourself kneeling beside that child, brushing away dust and cobwebs. You whisper, "I see you. I'm here." In that moment, you're not rescuing a broken self. You're reclaiming a hidden self, weaving together the fractured pieces to form a stronger, more tender whole. This act isn't magical, it's courageous, and it begins with the simple recognition that every feeling you've ever had is valid. You might still feel the muscle memory of pushing away discomfort, turning your gaze to the next task, the next distraction, anything to keep the storm at bay. But if you pause now and let the waves of old sadness wash through you, you'll find there's calm beneath the churning. Allow yourself to sit with the sorrow, to let it curl around your thoughts without judgment. As you breathe into the ache, you learn that sorrow is not an abyss, but a passage, leading you to deeper empathy for yourself and others. Notice how your body reacts, perhaps a tightness in your chest or a flutter in your stomach. Instead of battling those signals, greet them as messengers. They're telling you where healing is calling. You can lay a hand there and inhale peace. Then as you exhale, let go of the story that you're broken. In this exchange, pain recognized, release accepted, you practice the tender art of self-friendship. Sometimes, the hardest forgiveness is the one you owe yourself. You carry regrets like heavy stones, words you said in anger, promises you broke, moments you walked away. Yet those stones served a purpose. They were your attempt to protect yourself, however imperfectly. Today you can offer yourself a different response. Thank you for trying. I forgive you. Drop one stone at a time and feel your shoulders lighten with every release. Space appears where guilt used to live, and in that space, new growth whispers your name. Perhaps you fear that if you let go of guilt and shame, you'll lose the lessons they taught. But compassion doesn't erase wisdom. It upgrades it. When you guide yourself with kindness rather than criticism, your insights sharpen, your resilience deepens. You learn not just to survive the past, but to integrate it, each memory a tile in a mosaic that tells the story of your strength. Healing also asks for curiosity. What does your heart want when it's not seeking approval? If you pause in a moment of quiet, you might feel a gentle longing to create, to connect, to simply be. Follow that whisper. It might lead you to sketch a memory, to reach out to a friend you haven't called in years, or to sit under a tree and listen to the wind tell its ancient tales. These acts are your compass, pointing toward what nourishes your soul. You may doubt your capacity to hold both joy and pain, as if one cancels out the other. But notice how stars shine most brightly in the darkest skies. Your capacity to feel deeply is the very reason you can experience profound joy laughter that bubbles up unexpectedly. A thank you text that warms your chest, the gentle hush of dawn wrapping you in possibility. Let yourself collect these moments like fallen petals, pressing them between the pages of your heart. There will be days when the past resurfaces uninvited, a sudden pang when you taste a familiar scent, or a wave of insecurity when someone's gaze lingers. In those moments, you don't need to outrun the feeling. Instead, anchor yourself with breath. Inhale the present, exhale the echo. Remind yourself that you're not walking that old path anymore. You've built a new one with every step of letting go and forgiveness. As your inner self unfurls, boundaries become acts of love rather than walls of fear. You'll learn to say no without apology, to protect your energy like a sacred flame, and to let relationships shift or end when they can't hold your emerging light. This isn't cold or distant. It's honoring the truth that you deserve connection without compromise. Every breath, every tear, every moment of courage stitches a new layer into your being. You're weaving a tapestry that embraces light and shadow, strength and vulnerability, so that when you look in the mirror, you see the whole masterpiece. And as that reflection steadies, you feel a quiet certainty. You were never weak. You were simply waiting to be seen, held, and welcomed home. Thought for a couple of seconds. You've spent so long hiding from your own reflection that you barely recognize the glimmer in your eyes when you laugh, or the way your shoulders relax when you feel safe. But beneath the years of armor and silence lies a tender core, waiting to be cradled by your own kindness. Close your eyes and imagine that core as a small flame, flickering but unextinguished. Every fearful thought you've swallowed, every harsh word you've spoken to yourself, they were gusts trying to blow out that flame. But it's still there, glowing in the hush of your heart. Feel the weight of that image. A resilient ember, small yet undeniably alive. This ember is your essence, the part of you that still remembers how to glow, even when storms rage. Light doesn't always roar to life. Sometimes it hums softly, and that subtle warmth is enough to guide you home. Let yourself settle into the quiet glow, noticing how it pulses in time with your own heartbeat. Breathe in the steady warmth, breathe out the chill of self-doubt. There's a secret whispered in the spaces between your thoughts. You are worthy of gentleness. When you slip and replay old regrets, don't lash yourself with shame. Instead, lay a gentle hand on your heart and murmur, "I'm learning." Learning doesn't mean perfection. It means you're alive, you're changing, and you're choosing to tend your ember rather than snuff it out. Each time you catch your inner critic's voice, pause and ask, is that really the whole story? Behind the critic lurks a wounded child, begging for compassion, not condemnation. Recall a time you felt truly seen, perhaps a stranger's kindness on a difficult day, or a friend who held space while you cried. That moment didn't fix everything, but it reminded you that connection exists outside your mind's chatter. You can be that presence for yourself. When you feel unseen, lean into your ember's glow and say, "I see you." Let that simple act of self-recognition become a lifeline. Whenever doubt creeps in, you know how to find home. Now, think of a small act that honors your ember's light. It might be journaling a single sentence about what you need right now, taking a midday pause to stretch and breathe, or sending a message to someone who's supported you. These aren't grand gestures, they're quiet vows. I will tend myself. Each vow, each small act waters the ember until it becomes a steady flame, one that doesn't flicker with every breeze. Sometimes you'll sense a widening within you, a softness in places that have been rigid for years. That softness is courage, wearing vulnerability as a cloak. It might feel unfamiliar, like stepping barefoot onto grass for the first time. Your instincts will tingle. You'll be tempted to pull back. But remember, every new sensation is an invitation to expand. Allow the grass under your feet. Let it remind you of what it feels like to be fully present in your own skin. There will still be moments when the world's coldness tries to freeze your ember. You'll find yourself bracing against criticism, slipping back into the habit of shrinking. In those moments, place your hand over your chest and feel the truth that no one can fully extinguish your inner flame unless you step away. You have the power to lean in, to shield it with self-kindness, to catch it if it wavers. In this unfolding story, your relationships will mirror your healing. You'll notice some bonds deepen people who celebrate your ember's glow and stand by you when it flickers. And you'll see other connections begin to crack, those built on expectation or fear rather than genuine warmth. Let them shift. It's okay to outgrow what no longer serves your light. It doesn't diminish your worth to release it. It honors your ember's desire to burn brighter. As your ember grows, creativity stirs. You might pick up a paintbrush, or coax words onto a page, or simply rearrange the lamp on your desk so its glow feels more like you. These acts of creation are prayers you whisper to yourself. I exist. I matter. I bring light. Creation and healing walk hand in hand. They remind you that broken doesn't mean barren, and that new life can sprout from old wounds. And when you catch yourself hesitating, frozen by fear that your light isn't enough, remember this: embers cluster to become bonfires. Your small flame is part of a vast constellation of lights, each ember a testament to a life lived with courage and heart. By tending yours, you send sparks across the darkness, inviting others to tend theirs. Healing isn't a solitary gift, it's a shared glow that spreads. So now, as you rest in this gentle warmth, make a vow. The next time self-doubt speaks, you will answer with kindness. The next time fear knocks, you will open the door with curiosity. The next time you feel alone, you will reach inward and cradle your ember, remembering it has been your companion all along. Let this moment of soft determination be the turning point. You are learning not just to survive your story, but to tell it with full presence, each page alive with your ember's glow. You're not weak, you're an ember tending toward flame, a heart learning to stand open, a story still being written with the ink of compassion. If this whisper of healing warmed your soul, shine it forward, share this video with someone who needs to remember their own ember. And as always, if you haven't yet, subscribe and like to join this circle of light, where every ember matters. There's a gentle shift when you begin to treat yourself as a friend rather than an enemy. Notice how your thoughts soften when you imagine speaking to you as you would to someone you care about. In the morning, when the mirror catches your gaze, resist the urge to critique. Instead, offer a quiet greeting. Good morning. I'm glad you're here. Let that small kindness set the tone for your day, a ripple that reaches every interaction. As you move through your routine, pay attention to the little moments where your old patterns sneak in. Maybe you reach for your phone to distract yourself from an uncomfortable feeling, or you brace for judgment when someone offers feedback. In those split seconds, practice pausing. Feel the space between impulse and action just a breath's width, and choose compassion. It might feel strange at first, unfamiliar to give yourself so much grace, but each pause is a seed planted in the soil of your new story. Your relationships become living mirrors of your inner work. You'll find that conversations you once skirted now open with surprising ease because you no longer fear your own response. You might speak your truth and feel heard, or you might risk honesty and discover discomfort, but that discomfort isn't defeat. It's growth stretching your boundaries. Celebrate it. You're learning that authenticity is more magnetic than perfection, and there will be moments when the old fear tries to claw its way back, an insecure thought that you're too much or not enough. When that voice emerges, don't silence it by judgment. Instead, thank it for trying to keep you safe. Then remind it of the ember flickering beneath stronger than any doubt. Imagine wrapping that ember in a circle of light so large that it swallows the shadow. Because you're not extinguishing your fear, you're welcoming it into the warmth of your own compassion. This healing isn't linear. You'll have glorious springs when wildflowers of joy erupt, and winters when the cold wind of old grief blows through. Both seasons serve you. Enjoy, gather memories like bouquets, laugh with abandon, sketch your delight in a journal, let your heart soar. In grief, allow the tears to fall without shame. They water unseen roots, preparing you for the next bloom. Each cycle knits your heart's tapestry with strength and tenderness. At work or in creative pursuits, you may notice a new confidence emerging, not the brash self-assurance that demands spotlight, but a calm certainty that your contributions are meaningful simply because they come from you. You'll take risks, pitching ideas that feel vulnerable, starting projects that defy convention, or admitting you need support. And when you do, you'll be met by people who respect your courage, because vulnerability invites respect more deeply than bravado ever could. Self-care transforms from a buzzword into a sacred ritual. Instead of forcing routines you think you should follow, you learn to listen. Today, your soul might need a long bath. Tomorrow, it might beg for a walk in the rain. You honor those whispers, trusting they come from the deepest parts of you. Over time, these rituals anchor you in your body, teaching you that healing isn't only in the mind, it's woven through every heartbeat, every blink, every breath. Imagine yourself, a year from now. You're standing in the light of a sunrise you've chosen to witness, unguarded and open. Your spine carries the quiet strength of someone who's weathered storms and discovered they were made of sturdier stuff than they ever believed. Your voice, once tentative, rings clear with the cadence of truth. You feel a sense of belonging that begins and ends within you, rather than hinging on another's applause. There will still be days when the old pain surfaces an unexpected scent, a poignant lyric, a passing glance. When that happens, treat yourself as you would a friend who stumbled. Extend your hand, help them stand, and remind them of how far they've come. The path you walk now is guided by empathy, and every stumble is met with the same warmth you'd offer someone you love. Healing becomes your gift to the world. As your ember grows into a flame, you light the way for others who've been wandering in darkness. Your story once hidden becomes a beacon of hope. You'll share a soft word in a moment of someone's despair, or simply sit in companionable silence, offering presence where there might otherwise be solitude. In that sharing, your own light shines brighter. In these quiet acts of bravery, choosing compassion over criticism, vulnerability over armor, you learn that being unhealed wasn't your weakness. It was the doorway to your greatest strength. You're not just mending wounds, you're redesigning your life around the wisdom they've offered. And with each step, you reclaim more of yourself, until the person you become is someone you greet with joy every morning. Let this be your truth. You're not weak. You're beautifully unhealed in the way a garden is unpruned, wild, unapologetic, and full of possibility. And in that wildness, you discover your most authentic power. As you bring this journey to a close, take a deep, slow breath and feel the fullness of how far you've come. You've traced the contours of old wounds and learned to cradle them with kindness. You've discovered that the tender ember inside you is not a flicker waiting to die, but a steady glow guiding every step. Healing isn't a prize you win. It's the choice you make each morning when you greet yourself with compassion instead of critique. Let this moment mark your new beginning, a promise to lean into discomfort, to speak the truths you once silenced, and to celebrate each small act of courage. When guilt or fear whispers that you're not enough, remember the tapestry of resilience you've woven, every thread a testament to your strength. And when joy finds you in unexpected laughter or the hush of dawn, let yourself lean fully into that light, knowing it's yours to claim. If this message warmed you, share it with someone who needs permission to heal. Together, we create a circle of embers, each one lighting the way for another. If you haven't yet, subscribe and join this community where every heart matters and every story is honored. Thank you for showing up, for breathing through the ache, and for daring to shine your light. Your journey continues beyond this video, guided by the ember that lives in your chest. Keep tending it, keep believing in your worth, and remember, you're not weak, you're beautifully unhealed, and that is your greatest power.